and Bob McCleary and Dennis Fay to serve on our newly created infrastructure committee. And under their leadership, our pavement condition index has gone up by 3 points. So miracles can happen. But anyway, I just wanted to tell you what an honor it is to be here tonight, to be speaking with you, and really to work with all of you. When I first saw Lisa's video, I cried, because these women are the heroes of our generation. And it was so wonderful that we could all see that together and be recognized, to recognize where women have risen. And it's such an honor to be invited to speak before WTS, because the work that WTS does is so incredibly important. Both supporting women that are currently in the transportation field as engineers, as planners, as elected officials, but also providing incredible support to the women that are entering the field, as we saw tonight by the wonderful, amazing scholarship recipients that are going to be guiding us into the future. I also wanted to acknowledge and thank my colleagues on MTC who were here tonight supporting me, as well as my many friends from the Contra Costa Transportation Authority who are here, and we've worked together over the years and have many wonderful war stories and memories and accomplishments that we all share. It's also really fitting that this dinner tonight is in the Julia Morgan Ballroom, because as many of you know, Julia Morgan was the first woman to graduate from the UC Berkeley College of Engineering. Those were in the days when there were no women hardly in college, and she took on engineering and was one of the most brilliant graduates of the entire University of California. But, people ask how I got here, and first of all, I come to this room with incredible awe for all of you, because I was a history major. Now, I was a history major because I wasn't smart enough to be an engineer. My father and brother are both engineers, so I grew up with the view that engineers are gods. So all of you that are engineers, I feel that way, and I'm always in awe of all of you. I was a history major at Berkeley, but I was particularly grateful that I started out pre-med, so I had a year of freshman chemistry. And so when Steve Heminger called me at 5 o'clock one evening and said, "Amy, we got a problem tomorrow morning. You're going to read about some bolts, and it has to do with hydrogen embrittlement." Well, fortunately, I'd taken that college chemistry, and I was actually lucky because I actually had a Nobel laureate who had taught me about hydrogen. So I spent the next 3 hours reading all about hydrogen and remembering how small it is and how easy it is to get into anything. So my DNA was both a mother who was a writer and a newspaper writer, and my father who was an engineer. So I've also said, as we're going through the issues of the Bay Bridge, I'm really glad that this is not about finance, because engineering I can understand. If we were doing the bond meltdown that we had a few years ago, and I was chair, I have no knowledge, no intuitive knowledge about finances. But I kind of fell into transportation. Before I was elected to the city council, I was chair of our county library commission, and I got to know Julie Pierce, and we worked together on a countywide project when libraries were in crisis. And then when I joined the city council, I took the spot of a man, Sarge Littlehill, who'd been kind of the transportation guy. And because of transportation, because of libraries, 19 cities in Contra Costa working together, I was able to jump into transportation. And I think Julie Pierce and I got joined at the hip 20 years ago, and we're still a tag team. In Contra Costa, they confuse our names. They call her Amy, they call me Julie, and now that Julie is the vice president of ABAG, and I'm heading MTC, they're doing the same thing around the Bay now. And we answer to either name, so fine. But I think that one of the reasons that those of us who are not in, professionals in engineering and transportation are able to be successful in the field is the tremendous mentoring that we've all received from both the women and the men in this field. And I was very fortunate when I first joined the Contra Costa Transportation Authority. I spent hours with Bob McCleary learning all about transportation. The only problem was I was a Cal graduate and he went to Stanford, so I heard a lot of Stanford stories. But we negotiated a truce, and I was like a sponge in picking up his knowledge. And then the same thing when I joined MTC. I spent hours kind of learning about regional finance, the projects, and I remember over Labor Day when we were, cut the Bay Bridge and putting the new piece in place. I spent hours with Andy Vermeer. He was explaining to me the engineering of the bridge and how everything fit together and how it came apart. And as a matter of fact, we were down in those bolts in the tower that day, so we had a really good look. But it's that kind of commitment, I think, that the men, I think one of the reasons that women have been so successful in the transportation field is the openness with which the men in the field have welcomed all of us and supported us. Looking at Lisa's story on the Bay Bridge, she highlighted the fact that there are, women in engineering and transportation. That there are more. I believe that there are more women engineers in transportation than any other of the engineering fields. And I think that's because women's skills are suited to the engineering. It's kind of the DNA in women, because that engineering, transportation involves, it's very much like international diplomacy. Approaching people from an equal point of view, one of mutual respect, bringing groups of people together in consensus. So whether you're talking about the technical side or the political side, the county sales tax measures that we have across the Bay are great examples of how we as members of our community from all different walks of life and transportation come together and reach consensus, and then the ultimate test is taking these measures to the voters, and have had overwhelming success. And I think that the working together on these projects is really personifies WTS, because it is all about supporting each other professionally and personally in our work. And I think during the course of this work, women have developed wonderful working and supporting relationships. Whether you're working on a project or taking time off. I remember being in Sacramento once for a meeting. A group of us had finished, and so we had a few hours to go shopping, and we went and 6 of us ended up with, I think, 14 pairs of shoes. And 2 years later, those shoes came back to help us when we were negotiating Measure C, because we'd all remembered that time together. One of the things that occurred to me when last year the California Transportation Commission came to Orinda for its meeting, and because it was Alameda and Contra Costa County, the event focused on the Caldecott Tunnel. And as you know, those of you that know me know that's been a project that's been near and dear to my heart all these years. And there's been some fabulous documentation and photographs, including award-winning photographs of that tunnel construction project. And so we had those for the CTC, and the WTS sponsored the event at the Claremont Hotel, the reception. And that I was preparing my remarks, and I said, I think there are a lot of women that have worked on the Caldecott Tunnel. And I started just in my own notes, started writing down the number of women that I knew personally that had worked on the tunnel. And then I called Bijan Sartipi. I said, Bijan, how many people from Caltrans have worked on the tunnel? And together, we came up with a list of almost 150 women that have worked on the Caldecott Tunnel. It's everything from managing the project, getting the funding, working the politics, doing the planning, the design, the construction, the media, and including 20 women who are working in the trades. One woman who's a graduate of Contra Costa College apprenticeship program is working as a carpenter in the tunnel. So, I think it's both of these projects, the bridge and the tunnel, embody the success and the achievements that women have made. I think women also love transportation because it touches, everybody's lives. And as mayor and being known for transportation, I'll often get stopped at Safeway. How's the tunnel coming? You know, the day after Measure J passed and we had the money lined up, people said, well, aren't you out digging yet? You know, aren't you digging? So they're very anxious about this fall for it to open. And I remember going to a Girl Scout meeting, and the first third grade girl